Hola, hola chicos, bienvenidos. Pues vamos a hacer un repaso, ¿no? Para el examen. Qué bueno. Ok, bueno, vamos a empezar. Sí, les voy a enseñar primero dónde están todos los documentos, dónde es que necesitan ir para ver toda esa información. Luego vamos a hacer las actividades, ¿no? De repaso. Y finalmente, ¿no? Les voy a explicar también mientras que vayamos haciendo esos ejercicios, ¿no? Que el por qué, ¿no? Es decir, por qué es que escogí eso o por qué es que decidí hacer eso, ¿ok? So, first, before we get started, what I want to do is I want to show y'all guys where all of this is, okay? And we're going to actually do it directly inside the class so that y'all can see where all of this information is contained, okay? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to go into content, right? Because everything in your class is contained in the content portion, right? So you want to click on this tab, okay, right here. Okay. Then we're going to go into the week that your midterm is in, okay? So that's the other thing that we want to do. So when we go into our weeks, where do we want to click to find the information that we need? We want to click on the week 7, right? All of your review documents, all of your stuff can be found inside this, this module, okay? All right, let's click on that module. Okay, what are some of the pieces that we need in order to be successful inside this module? Okay, so, all right, so here's the first thing, right? Your quiz is right in here, right? You can click directly on it and start to take it inside there. Remember that you only have a certain number of hours to complete the quiz, and that whenever you start the quiz, you must do the quiz until completion, okay? You can also use, right, anything that you have used in this class, right? Because I set up these midterms so that, and finals, so that they are not just an assessment piece, but they are also a learning tool. So that means you can use your notes, you can use any of the PowerPoints, you can use any information that might help support you in taking the quiz in a way that is more effective. Okay, so remember when you go in to take the quiz, you have approximately 4 hours. You have 3 attempts. And it should show you what you got wrong, but it will not tell you why. Okay, so that is how it is a learning tool, right? You need to go back and figure out how you got it wrong in order to know how to do it right, okay? So this is what we're going to look at right now. We're going to look at these study materials for the midterm. And then once we do that, what we're going to do is I also just wanted you to see here is that there also are these asynchronous like classes so that you can go back and rewatch them if you would like to, right? Because all those modules are closed. And so I was worried that the classrooms would also be closed. So if you want to go back and rewatch any of the content at any point, you of course can. Okay, so here's where we'll start. Okay, so you'll notice that because you did the present tense verb bootcamp, that the verbs that you cover, right, are verbs that had to do with the present tense, right, in the exam. So we're going to go back through them, right, make sure that we're 100% solid on knowing how to do present tense verbs before we move on to anything else. You also did reflexive verbs. Like we also talked a little bit about, this is from Spanish 1, right? Where you did gustar and you did ir. So we're going to just make sure that we know that. We want to make sure that we know the difference between ser and estar, right? That was something that we covered this semester, the difference between saber and conocer, right? We also want to make sure that we know things like the technology vocabulary, the regular preterites, right, which was something that you did a couple of weeks ago. And then the irregular preterites was something you did last week. Comparisons and superlatives, which only some of you used, right, in your restaurant guide. And I wrote, make sure you know how to do this, right, because it's going to be on the test. And then also por and para, which was something you were meant to do last week. Okay, so let's go back to the study materials and we'll click on each one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you through each review sheet and we'll talk about why. So these review sheets are not all encompassing in any way, shape, or form. In fact, actually, they are old exams that I wrote for when we used to have this class in person. And so these are just old tests that I used, or old activities, or things like that. And I just reappropriated them as a review sheet. So it is just meant to be an additional practice for you. It is not meant to basically be everything that you could possibly cover on the midterm. It's just meant to be some additional assistance. Okay, so let's start here. This says review sheet for midterm, and then it says verbos en el presente en AR. Okay, so how would I, if I was doing this section, how would I do this? The first thing that I am going to do, if this was me taking this section, is I am going to write down my verb chart, because this is what I need to complete this section. If I don't have this, I'm just guessing, right? That's all I'm doing. So I don't want to be guessing, right? Because I don't need to guess whenever the information is already there. So I'm going to write down my verb chart. What are the endings of these verbs in the present? I don't have to guess. I have a little chart that tells me what they are. Change my keyboard. Okay. These are the verb endings for present tense AR verbs in the, in the present. I said that part already. So, okay. So I have all the information that I need to know I have contained within this verb chart. Okay. I have all the endings. I have where they go, and I should know, right? So I like to do them this way because it's kind of a shortcut for me. But if you want to do them another way by like writing the yo, the tú, the él, the ella, that's okay too. I like to do them this way because then I know, right? This column is singulars. This column is plurals. This column is anything that is a first person. This column is anything that's a second person. And this column is anything that's a third person. Okay, so that makes it a little bit easier for me. Anything that's a first person, I'm in the group, right? So if it's I or if it's we, I'm in the group. Anything that's a second person, you're in the group, right? So you or y'all, that's a second person, right? And remember, it's always informal. Anything that's a third person is farther removed. It's a he, she, a they, somebody that's even more far removed. So that's easier for me to remember, but whatever strategy it is that you want to use to remember it is okay. Just I would make a little chart before I even started something like this. So, or in your notes, right? So that I knew where to come back to for this, right? And then I have all the pieces of the information I need right there. Okay, so I know all these verbs end in an AR. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate the AR on all of these, because that is our first step towards conjugating verbs, right? So I have eliminated these ARs because that is how we conjugate present tense verbs. Okay, so, all right, I've done that. I have eliminated all of my ARs. So now I have all of my stems. So so as I read through, right, it says, en la universidad, la vida es variada. por la mañana, el estudiante. Okay, so then the second thing that I might do if I was doing this activity is I would want to find the subjects for each of these verbs, okay? So this is my subject. It's the same subject because the subject doesn't change. So, oh, that's my subject, right? Oh, that's my subject. That's my subject. That is my subject, right? Okay, that's my subject. That's my subject. And okay, that's my subject right there. Okay, so I found all of my subjects. The next thing that I want to do is I want to look at subjects and think, do I know what this subject is? Like, do I know what this one means, right? Okay, so then let's go there, right? So do I know what el estudiante is? Okay, well, el estudiante is just technically an el. Okay. What about Carmen and sus amigas? Okay, that's just going to be ellas. Alejandro, that one is also just going to be él, right? Los estudiantes, that one comes here twice, so that's also ellos. That's an ellos. Okay, that's the only ones that were a little bit of a mystery. This one is also going to be ellos. Okay, all right. So now I've gone through and I figured out first, which is the stem. Second, which is my subject. Third, anything that looked like a little bit of a mystery to me, I resolved it, right? And so now this should be easy, right? At this point, now I've got all the pieces I need to figure out how to do this. So if I have por la mañana, el estudiante, so el estudiante I know is an el, right? So I mean, I could have put these in parentheses, but it's the same. So what am I going to do? I'm going to write the root here. Camin, right? And I know if it's el, that means it has to end in an A, right? Because it is third person singular. Okay. A las clases y, and then this is the same subject, right? I don't have remember in Spanish, if you don't note a change of subject, it's the same subject, right? So as long as the subject doesn't change, we're going to assume that that subject continues on. That's kind of the rule. So we're going to still assume that it's el estudiante, right? Which is still an el. So we're going to put the root here, which is tom. We have that. And then it's a third person singular. So we're going to write toma. Okay. Sin embargo, muchos estudiantes pasan su tiempo afuera de la universidad de diferentes maneras. Yo, okay, let's write our root, which is escuch, okay? And then what is the yo ending? Well, it's a first person singular, so we're going to write o. Yo escucho, no, música. Carmen y sus amigas, and what verb tense with that? Ellas. Okay, so let's write the root, which is B-A-I-L, bail. And then if that's a third person plural, then we're going to write A-N, right? Bailan, ¿no? En la discoteca, Alejandro, so let's write our root, which is dibuj, okay? And, all right, so we have an N, so again, third person singular, so it's going to be dibuja, ¿no? And then we have, we had a subject here that we didn't underline. We have one more, so we have tú here, right? Okay. So, all right, so if we have tú, let's write the root, which is going to be converse, okay? So remember, the root is just going to be the word without the AR attached to it, right? Or without the ER or without the IR, right? So that's what we're doing. We're just writing the root. So tú is second person singular, so we're going to write an AS at the end of it. So conversas con tus amigos. Pero por la mañana casi todos los estudiantes, okay, so let's write the root again. Desayun. And then it's an ellos, so that is third person plural. So desayunan, ¿no? Y por las noches, los estudiantes cen. And then again, it's ellos, so third person plural, cenan, ¿no? Vosotros, which is second person plural, right? So we're going to have the root, can. No, and then we have second person plural, which is vais, ¿no? En vuestro carro a solas. A mí me gusta caminar en el shopping y, okay, so yo right? The root, and then we have yo. So yo is first person singular. So compro. ¿No? Muchas cosas. Qué vida. ¿No? Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Here we have verbs that are already conjugated. Okay. So the most important thing here is going to be to find out what the subject is, because remember, the subject and the ending has to match. So, okay, what is the first thing that I want to do? The first thing that I'm going to do is, here I'm going to say, based on this ending, what subject does this have to be, right? What subjects do these have to be based on these endings, okay? So, and then I'm going to write it in parentheses near the verb. So I have miras in parentheses. If it ends in an AS, what does it have to be? It has to be tú. Okay? Then I have conversan. If it ends in an AN, what does it have to be? Ellos. Estudian. If it ends in AN, what does it have to be? Ellos. Then I have miro. If it ends in an O, what does it have to be? It has to be yo. So we've got miro, escucho, estudio. All of those have to be yo. They cannot be anything else, right? Far enough over. Okay. Okay. So then we have gusta. And remember that gusta is either gusta or gustan. So that one we're going to put aside. It's irregular. So it's, but we have it in the singular form here, or the singular or infinitive form. So let's write that there. Okay. Then we have canta. And we know because it ends in an A, it has to be okay. Then we have limpian and terminamos. So limpian ends in an AN, so it's going to be like these ones, ends in an AN, ends in an AN. What does it have to be? Ellos. And then we have terminamos, ends in an amos. What does it have to be? Nosotros. And we have ice, ends in an ice. What does it have to be? Vosotros. Okay? All right. So now we've gone through, we've figured out what all of the subjects to these verbs have to be. Okay, so then what would I want to go through now and do? Maybe I want to go through now and say, okay, what subjects am I not sure about, right? Or what subjects are there? Okay, so that would be the next thing I want to do. Now I want to find where all the subjects are. So I have, this is one, right? Actually, wait a minute. Ooh, tricky, tricky. We have a mí me, so the subject is actually bailar, right? Okay. Then we have Javier, a mis amigos, ellas. Okay. Then we have yo. Then we have tú. Then we have yo. Then we have yo. So we have 3 yos there. Then we have a vosotros. Oh, okay. And then we have a nosotras. Oh, okay. Well, this is easy then. Okay. Let's start with the ones that we only have one of. How many forms of tú do we have? Just one. So we know this has to go here. How many forms of vosotros do we have? Just one. So where does this have to go? Here. How many forms of the nosotros do we have? Just one. So it has to go here. Okay. How many forms of gustar do we have? Just one, right? So it has to go here because it's the only one where the subject is coming after the verb. So it has to be here, right? And how many forms of él or ella do we have? Just the one. So that means it has to go here, right? So we know that this has to be here. Okay, so all right, so now we've matched up the ones that for sure we know have to go there. Now we have to use our best process of elimination based on the context to think, where is something going to go? So we have 1, 2, 3 that are ellos, right? Ellos or ellas, right? It could be either. And how many ellos or ellas do we have? We have mis amigos, that's one. Let's put it in a different color so that way we can know that it's that's what we're looking at. So let's put those in red. So we know we have mis amigos, that's an ellos. We have ellas, that's one. And then, oh, and ellas has 2 blanks, okay? So how many do we have? We have 1, we have 2, and we have 3, okay? All right. So that means, right, that for sure we know we have 3 possibilities. So what is more likely? So now we have to think, okay, what do these things mean? Conversan means to converse. Estudian means study. And then we have limpian, which means clean. Okay, all right. So let's think. Is it more likely that my friends from university converse, study, or clean? I'm going to guess study, just because university and study, it goes together a lot. Okay, so we're going to put the study one here. So estudian, right? That means we only have 2 left. Where do they have to go by default? They have to go here, no? Right? That's where they have to go, right? We don't have any other options, okay? So now we have 3 blanks that say yo, okay? And we have 3 yos. We have miro, escucho, estudio. So now I would want to say, okay, what do these ones mean? So miro, watch. Escucho, listen. Estudio, study. Okay. So what is likely that we watch TV, right? We're here, right? We're here. So let's put these yos in another color so that way we can also kind of see them differently. So let's put them in pink. So we have a yo, and then we have a yo. Okay, so which is more likely, that we watch television, that we listen television, or that we study television? It's probably more likely that we watch television, right? So miro, no, miro mucha televisión, no? Which is more likely, that we listen to music or that we study music? It's probably more likely that we listen to music. So we can say escucho, no? And what is more likely, that we study for exams? Yes, right? So we study for exams, right? So it's kind of like almost like a process of elimination, right? We're going to go through with the information that we know, we're going to kind of process, eliminate, you know, how we would look at those. Now, of course, remember, right, you have an answer, a worksheet that has the answers, okay? So don't forget that. Okay, so now we have, let me see if I can make it a little smaller. Let's go 100%. Okay, that's better. All right, so what would we do with this? All right, this is what I would do. Again, what is the first thing I want to have? I need to have all of the information that I need in order to complete this assignment. So what am I going to need? If I'm going to conjugate IR and ER verbs, what do I need? If you guessed a verb box, You are 100% right. I need a verb box, right? I need a verb box to tell me what are my endings. So, all right, so I'm going to put my present tense endings here, right? That's what we're doing. We're still talking about the present tense. All right, so I'm going to put my endings for, let's do, you want to do, I guess we could do ER first. Okay, remember, we're going to break it out into singular, plural, and then first, second, and third person. No, that one doesn't look as nice. Okay. And okay, so now what are the endings that I need here? Well, the yo form is o. The tú form is es. The él, ella form is e. The nosotros form is hemos. The vosotros form is eis. And the ellos form is en. See? Okay. Now let's do the same for IR, right? Because we're also going to do IR verbs. So we only have half the information we need. We need the other pieces, okay? So, all right, I'm going to make another verb chart off to the side here. And I need, what are my answers for IR verbs, or what are my endings for IR verbs? So I'm going to put that over here. Okay. And again, still, right, I'm going to have singular. I'm going to have plural. And then I'm going to have first person, second person, third person. Okay. And then what are my endings here? So I'm going to have yo, which is o. Oh, that's a zero on accident. Es. E. Imos. This is where things get a little bit more complicated, right? We need an imos here. We need is here. And then we need en. Okay, perfecto. Listo. We're ready. Okay, so we have all of the components of a complete sentence. What is the only thing that we are doing? We are just formulating that sentence with the correct verb. Okay, so what might be the next thing that I want to do? Well, if it was me, the other thing that I would do is I would find the root of all of these regular verbs. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take off this little section here, remembering what's there, right? So I don't want to mark it out so much so that I can't see it. But I just want to like kind of mark it out a little bit just so that I can remember that, you know, I'm going to be taking it off so that then I have the root there. Okay. All right. So now, okay, now I'm ready, right? I'm 100% ready. So what is my subject of the first sentence, right? Oh, that'd be another good one. Let's go through and we'll make sure that we know what the subject is. What is the subject? Carmen. What is the subject? Tú. What is the subject? Nosotros, right? When in doubt, generally the people are the subject, right? Or yo, right? Ellos, right? Oh. Nosotros, vosotros, yo, tú, Tomás. Okay, so we found all of our subjects, okay? All right, so let's start with the subject here. What is our subject? It's Carmen. Oh, well, okay, so that's actually, before we do this, let's just do one more thing, right? Remember, so before we do that, let's just say one more thing, right? What would be one more thing? And this one erased my little line here. Okay, what would be one more thing that I might want to think of whenever I'm thinking about putting together these? Okay, so what do I want to think? I want to think, okay, well, in Spanish, out as in English, right? How do I want to put a subject to, how do I want to put a sentence together? I want to put the subject, then I'm going to add the verb, then I'm going to add the complement, which is whatever comes after, right? Okay, so that's just a little formula in my brain. Okay, so then I want to say, all right, so what is the subject here? It's Carmen, so that comes first. What is the verb that's going to come next. Well, I have beb, that's my root. Carmen is ella. It ends in an ER. So what is the ending I want to use? I want to use this one, right? Bebe, no, una limonada. Okay? Spanish. All right. So first, subject. What's the subject? Tú, I decided, right? What's the verb? Compar. Okay, so what is the appropriate present tense ending for compartir, right? Well, it's going to be second person singular, right? So compartes, ¿no? Tu libro con Tomás. Okay? So again, let's start with the subject. That's nosotros. Okay? Then we're going to put our verb root, recib, ¿no? And then what is the nosotros form of recibir? It's going to be imos, right? So recibimos una carta. Okay? What's the subject here? Yo. What's the root? Abre. And what is the yo form of abrir? It's first person singular. So abro, ¿no? La puerta. ¿Sí? Okay. What is the subject? Ellos. Oh. What is the verb? Creer. So we have to take off the ER, right? So cree. And what is the ellos form of creer? It is going to be creen, right? ¿No? En las fantasmas. Fantasmas is ghosts, ¿no? Okay. What is the subject? Nosotros. What is the root of the verb? Deb. What is the nosotros form of deber? Well, it's going to be an hemos, right? So debemos, ¿no? A ustedes. ¿Sí? Okay. What is the verb? Or what is the subject, I mean? Vosotros. What is the verb? Leer, right? So what is the vosotros form of leer? It's going to be lees. Leáis. ¿Sí? Leáis. Ok. El libro que os... Ok. Okay, what is the subject? Yo. What is the verb? What is the yo form of comprender? Comprendo. ¿No? La tarea de ayer. ¿No? What is the verb? Tú. What is the verb? Escribe. That's the root. So what is the tú form of escribir? It's going to be escribes. ¿No? Okay. What is the subject? Tomás. Okay. Decid. And what is the el form of, remember, Tomás, Maria, all of those are proper names. They're always going to be third person. So they're either going to be singular or plural, right? So if I have more than one, Tomás, María, y Gustavo, right? Plural. If I have just Tomás, singular, right? So what is that form? It's going to be third person singular. So decide, ¿no? Hablar con nosotros. Tomás made 2 appearances in this activity. Exciting. Okay. See? So again, right, remember with all of these things, the most important thing is you need to keep matching your things, right? So this needs to match this. This needs to match this, right? This needs to match this. This needs to match this, right? This and this and this and this, right? always the ending and the subject have to match, right? They have to agree. No? Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay, so this is just, you know, we're just changing these to first person singular. So, what is the first person singular form of haces? It is hago. So we're just going to answer, we're just answering the questions, basically. What is the first person singular form of haces? It's hago. So we might say yes or no, right? So maybe sí. Hago ejercicio mucho. ¿No? ¿Sales a comer mucho o nunca? Do you like to go out to eat? You can say sí, right? Or we could say no. No salgo, that's the yo form, right? A comer mucho. No? Or we could say yes, right? It doesn't matter, right? The yes or the no part is, it's just extra, right? We're just answering a question. So we could also say sí, salgo a comer mucho, and that would also be right, right? Okay. So, ¿traes comida contigo a la universidad para almorzar? Do you bring food with you? But we want to put traes in the yo form. So maybe we would say sí. I'll just alternate the sí and the no. Sí, traigo comida. So yes, I bring food for lunch. No? And what's the yo form of ves? It's veo. No? So what might we say? No. No veo a mi familia. I never see my family. No? What is the yo form of pones? It's pongo. So I'm just alternating the sí and the no. Right? Okay. Let's do the yo form of the next few. Okay, so we have 4 more yo forms. Okay, so here we go. So what's the yo form here? We have oigo. No, this one would probably be one that y'all guys don't know. Oigo la radio. Okay, so what's the yo form of tener? It's tengo. No, no tengo. And I just picked one. What's the yo form of vienes? It's vengo. Sí, vengo. What's the yo form of sabes? It's sé. No. And what is the yo form of conoces? It's conozco. Yeah. So this is the main thing, right? The main thing that this activity is meaning to do. It's meaning to make sure that you know that you can transform this oyes into oigo, right? In the yo form. So finding these in one form and then being able to recognize the yo form, right? That's the main point of that activity. So the questions could have like a variety of answers, right? That's not the only answer. Okay. So, okay, so the next one is going out activity, right? And you're meant to choose what is the correct stem changer, right? Based on the context. Okay, so here are a couple of the things that you would need in order to do this activity, right? First, you would need to know, what do these verbs mean? So let's start there. Let's write out what the infinitives mean that I can see, right? So I have bailar. So if I look that up, what does it mean? To dance. Suponer. If I look that one up, what does it mean? To suppose. Querer, what does that one mean? To want. Hacer, to do or make. Desear, to desire. Notificar is exactly what it sounds like, to notify. Jugar, to play. Dormir, to sleep. Suponer, we already did. Visto es ver, so to see. Vivir. I'm just going through the ones that are in the italics here, so I don't know if you guys can see. I'm just picking the ones that are in the italics and the parentheses, and I'm just writing out what each one of them means, right? So if it was me, I would do this through a dictionary, but I know what they mean, so I'm not going to look them up. But you know, if you wanted to know what they mean, then you might do this with a dictionary. Trabajar means to work. Poder means to be able or to can. Competir, to compete. Ganar, to win. Some of this vocabulary is probably unfamiliar to you because it comes from that part in the book when I took this. This was like an exam box, so all the vocabulary would have come from that particular textbook and where they were at in that textbook. So if you don't know this vocabulary, don't feel worried. It's just, I just repurposed these as a review document, but just to kind of help you guys a little bit. But okay. So we have pensar, which means to think. Bailar, we already did. Vamos is ir, right? Which is to go. Traigo is traer, which means to bring. Es is ser, which means to be. Volver is to return. Oh, we've run out of room. We're going to have to move to the other side. Okay. Querer. We have another querer, so we already did that one. Mandar, which means to send. Hacer, we already did. Ganar, we already did. Pienso, we already did. Manejar, which means to drive. Empezar, which means to begin. Decir, which means to say. We have already volver. We had already poder. Mantener, to maintain. And andar, which means to meander, to go to. Okay, so what are some other things that I might need in order to know how to do this box? Well, I'll need to already have in the back of my mind what endings go with what, what subjects, right? But here, the main thing that I'm trying to see is how do these things match, right? So either based on the context or based on the endings, right? How does it match? So there are clues in the subtext for us to find, right? And I like to do that a lot. I like to leave little clues inside the information so that people who are paying attention and who have really studied can pick up on those clues. That is something that definitely will be in the exam. Okay, so Mario says, cuando, and we have three options. We have bailan, supongan, quieren ir de paseo al centro. No? Okay, so immediately we have a verb that we have never seen before, and we have absolutely no idea what it means. We have a form that we've never seen before, so we know that one has to be wrong, because on the exam, you will not be tested on anything that you have not done before. So anytime we see something and we don't recognize it, we can immediately think that is the wrong answer. It's not a trick, because you should assume that if you've never seen it before, it cannot possibly be the answer. So that one is a dead giveaway. It's a dead, like it is a freebie, right? I know that's not the answer. I've never seen that verb before. So, okay, we have one we know is not the answer, 100%. So would we So now let's see what bailar mean. What does bailar mean? It means to dance. Okay. Or what does querer mean? Oh, it means, where did it go? Querer, it means to want. So if we think about this, when dance in the, going to the center, to downtown, right? Or would we want to go to downtown? Probably, right? We're going to want to go to downtown, right? So this is going to say quieren, ¿no? ¿Cuándo quieren ir de paseo en el centro? When do you want to go and hang out in the center? Right? So that would make sense, right? Dancing, it doesn't really fit, right? It's not really fit. So Gita, or Gita, she responds and she says, no sé, no. And then we have cuando, and then we have three verbs here. Hacer, deseas, notifican. Well, but look, we have a subject, and that's tú. Is hacer conjugated for tú? No, it's not actually conjugated at all. So that one we know 100% has to be wrong. Deseas is conjugated for tú, so that's a possibility. Is notifican conjugated for tú? No. So this one is very easy. We know it cannot be either one of those because neither one of them are conjugated in the tú form. So it has to be deseas by default. Yeah? Okay, let's go to the next thing. So it says, pues, los martes siempre, and then we have three options. Juego, duermo, supongo, basquetbol con mis amigos y los viernes, no, visto, vivo, trabajo. Okay? So if we're thinking about basketball being the subject here, right? So what is it that we're talking about doing? We're talking about doing basketball. So would we jugar basketball, which is play? Or would we dormir basketball, which is to sleep? Or would we suponer, suppose basketball? Well, it feels unlikely that we would suppose basketball. That one doesn't even make any sense. We can't sleep basketball either. So, nope. But you know what we can do is we can play basketball. So it has to be jugar, right? Then if we look over here, right, what are we going to do again? So we have, what are we doing? We say we visto, vivo, trabajo, right? Okay. Well, so this one we've never seen before because it's a gerund. So we know has to be wrong. Default, right? We've never seen it. Doesn't exist to us. It's wrong. 100%. So would we, if we were talking about activities that we do, would we say we live or would we say that we work? So they're both conjugated correctly, but here we would probably want to use our best judgment. We're probably not talking about living because we're not talking about where we live, right? Or what we're doing in that living. We're not talking about any kind of context. But work as a verb, it can exist unto itself, right? We don't need anything after the verb for it to tell us what's going on. And he's also talking about his schedule. So I feel like it would be more likely that he would be saying working rather than living or whatever. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yo los martes tampoco, and then we have puedo, compito, gano, ir de paseo porque tengo clase. No? Okay, so all of them are conjugated correctly. So is it more likely that we would be able to walk, that we would compete to walk or, to hang out in downtown, or that we would win? There's no way to win at hanging out. I mean, that's not really a thing. We also can't really compete to hang out. I mean, I don't really know how anybody would do that. So, but we can be able to hang out, right? So that seems the most likely, no? Okay, then we have next, tal vez entonces pensamos, bailamos, vamos al centro el sábado, no? So then she's saying next, right? So then maybe we could either think, dance, or go to downtown. We're not talking about dancing in a location. So this one seems weird, right? we're also not talking about thinking about going somewhere. They're actively speaking about going to hang out together. So it's not like they're contemplating it. They're making plans for when they're actually going to do it. So this seems unlikely, right? So what is most likely is that they're talking about going, right? They're talking about directly going, right? So then he says, qué buena idea, ¿no? El sábado, and then we have, traigo es vuelvo, ideal y perfecto. So they're agreeing on the day, right? And they're saying, oh, it's perfect. So would we say we bring perfect, we return perfect, or it is perfect? We're probably going to say it is perfect, right? We can't bring anything to a hang. I mean, not in this sense. We can't bring ideal and perfect. We can't return ideal and perfect in this sense, but we can, it can be ideal and perfect. So that one is the most likely. So then they say, ¿a dónde vamos? No, quiero, mando, hago, ir al centro comercial. Ir de compras es aburrido. So now they're talking about what they're not going to do whenever they go to the city center. So they either, so they don't want, or they don't send, or they don't make, right? Can you send them all? No, right? Because where are they talking about going? The centro comercial. You can't send them all. You can't make them all, right? So neither one of these ones makes sense. But can you want to go to the mall? Yes. Right? But in this context, they're saying, no, they don't want to go to the mall because shopping is boring. Then Beatriz, right? She says, yo no, and then we have three options. We have gano, pienso, manejo. Que es aburrido. It's boring, right? So she's saying, I don't have that opinion about the boring, right? So would we say, I don't win, it's boring? I don't think it's boring, or I don't drive, it's boring. Well, you can't drive a boring and you can't win a boring, but you know what you can do is you can think about whether something is boring, right? Okay. So then Gita says, yo tampoco. No, then Mario says, yo, and then we have three options. We have empiezo, digo, vuelvo a ver que estar en contra mía, no? So he's saying, you're against me. I can see you're against me. So empezar is to begin, right? So would he say, I begin to see you're against me, I say to see you're against me, or I return to see you're against me? You can't really return to see something. That doesn't make any sense. In this context, you can't really say I see something, right? But you might start to see something or begin to see something. So that one probably makes the most sense. And then this is, no, Mario, pero podemos, mantenemos, anda, ir al centro comercial por un rato nada más. So they're still all talking about going together. So the most likely subject of this sentence is a we. Because what are they talking about doing? They're talking about doing something all together. So is anda a we? No. So it is unlikely that that is the right answer. But we have mantener and poder. Is it more likely that we're going to be able to go together, or that we're going to maintain to go together? Maintain sounds jarring, even in Spanish. So it's unlikely that we would maintain to go together, but it is likely that we would be able to go together, right? So that is the most likely answer. Okay. Oh, we have more. We're gonna, since we went through more or less how that would be, let's just underline which ones would be the correct ones here. So, okay, está bien, ¿no? Beatriz cuenta con nosotros. ¿A dónde quieres ir tú? ¿No? Yo prefiero ir al cine a comer. Pues nosotros conseguimos, ¿no? hacerlo todo, ¿no? Okay. Okay, so now this is the difference between ser and estar. Okay, so how would I do this one? Okay, the first thing that I need is I need to know how to conjugate ser and estar, or else I'm going to be in trouble, right? If I don't have ser and estar conjugated, how can I fill in these boxes? Okay, so that's going to be the first thing. So I'm going to make some little charts here, and I'm going to put ser and estar in the box. Okay, so first, let's do ser. So it's yo soy. Tú eres. Él, ella, usted es. Nosotros somos. Vosotros sois. Ellos, ellas, ustedes son. Okay, so that's ser. Let's put that in caps. Then now here we're going to have estar. Okay, and that is yo estoy. Tú estás. Don't forget your accent marks, ¿no? Él, ella está. Accent mark again, ¿no? Nosotros estamos. Vosotros estáis. Accent mark again. Ellos, ellas, ustedes están. Okay. So that's the first thing that I would do, right? Is I'm going to conjugate all my verbs. So that way I know which one is ser and which one is estar. Okay? That way I can keep them separate. Then remember the rule. What's the rule? There are 4 times that it is going to be estar and everything else is going to be ser. So again, estar is going to be for things that are transient. And estar is going to, or ser is going to be for things that are more permanent or seen as more permanent. So how am I going to use estar? Again, I'm going to use it for 3 scenarios, right? I'm going to list them over here. 1, emotions and physical conditions. 2, actions. 3, physical location. And 4, climate. Okay, so those are the 4 instances in which I would use estar. And I know that by default, everything else is going to fall into ser. Okay, so how am I going to do it? So I might say, all right, if I say mi sopa fría, what am I saying? I'm saying the soup is cold, right? Is that, and I'm going to go through my list, right? First, I want to know, is it estar? If it's not estar, by default, it's ser. Okay, so is it an emotion or a physical condition? Yes. Because I'm saying it's cold right now. What happens if I put it in the microwave? It gets hot, right? So that is estar. I need to move this a little bit so it looks okay. Okay, so mi sopa está fría, ¿no? Then I say nosotros no amantes. Amantes is like lovers, right? So is being a lover with someone an emotional or physical condition? No. Is it a present action using an ando or a yendo? No. Is it a physical location that uses a preposition? No. Is it talking about weather? No. So what does it have to be? It has to be said. And in this, right, it's identity. So we know that it has to be said. So nosotros no somos amantes. Okay, let's keep going. Tus pies sucios. If I'm saying sucios, I'm saying dirty. So is that an emotional or a physical condition? Yes, it is. Because what happens if I wash those feet? Now they're clean, right? So I'm going to use estar. Están, ¿no? Tus pies están sucios. Okay, next. Ellas, amigas desde hace mucho tiempo. Is being friends with someone an emotional or physical condition? No. Is it a present tense action with ando or yendo? No. Is it a physical location that uses a preposition? No. Is it a climate or a weather activity? No. So what does it have to be? Ser. So, ellas son amigas desde hace mucho tiempo. And again, it would be identity, right? Identity. Okay. Mi casa cerca de la playa, no? So, is that, I'm talking about how close it is to the beach. So, is it an emotion or a physical condition? No. Is it a present action using an ando or a yendo? No. Is it a physical location with a preposition? Yes, it is. And how do I know that? Because the word cerca is here. Okay. So mi casa está cerca de la playa. Ellos y yo, compañeros de la universidad. So talking about being colleagues, is that an emotion or a physical condition? No. Is it a present action with an ando or a yendo? No. Is it a physical location that uses a preposition? No. Is it a climate or a weather activity? No. What is it? Identity. So it's going to use ser. No? Okay. Tus padres casados desde hace 20 años. This should look familiar from the slides as a part of the exceptions to the rule. What were some of the exceptions to these idea of identity or relationship status kind of things that would fall under more of a permanent thing? It was being pregnant was one, right? That is, it's viewed as transitional rather than permanent. Being married is also viewed as a transitional phase of life rather than permanent. Getting divorced or dying or being in love, those are all viewed as transitional states of being, and so they fall under estar. So you should remember this one from the exceptions. So I don't know if you do, but that's a good refresher. Okay. Los plátanos no azules. So this is saying plátanos are not blue, right? So plátanos being blue, is that an emotion or a physical condition? See, here's where things get tricky. It is not a physical condition because can bananas be blue? Can plátanos be blue? No. In their natural physical condition, they are not blue. So it can't be a physical condition. I'm not talking about it being dirty or sick or ripe or any of that. That's a physical condition, right? It's current status. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about its physical color, its actual color. That is not a physical condition. It is a description of the item. And descriptions are always said, right? So even that's where we start to get ourselves a little bit tripped up, right? Because we can get our own selves confused. So, but this one is going to be said. Mi tío y primo en la montaña. So we're saying they're at the mountains. Is that an emotion or a physical condition? No. Is it a present action with ando or yendo? No. Is it a physical location with a preposition? Yes. How do we know? Because we have this preposition en, and that tells us it is a physical location with a preposition. So we know it has to be estar. Ok. Mis amigos me dicen que yo simpática. So, is being a nice person, is that an emotional or physical condition? No. Is it a present action with ando or yendo? No. Is it a physical location with a preposition? No. Is it a climate or a weather? No. What is it? A characteristic or a description. So it has to be said. ¿No? Okay. Nosotros, ¿sí? Preocupados por la salud de tu papá. ¿No? So preocupados is to be worried, right? So is that an emotion or a physical condition? Yes. Being worried is an emotion or a physical state, right? So we know that this has to use estar. Okay. Finally, yo escribiendo en la computadora, is escribiendo an emotion or a physical condition? No. Is it a present action with an ando or a yendo? Yes, it is. How do we know? Because we have a yendo right there. So we know it has to use estar. Okay? Whew. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. So this is just asking you to either put in the verb or put in the reflexive form, right? So in the present tense. So remember that reflexives, let's just put one over here, right? So that way we can kind of have a frame of reference. I like to put one reflexive over here, so it kind of reminds me of what it is I'm supposed to do with reflexives. Okay, let's put, what's the easy one? Well, there's levanto right here, so let's put that one. Me levanto. Te levanto. Te levanto. Nos levantamos. Os levantáis. Se. Okay, so this is just to remind me of, like, as a kid, so I can have kind of an example of what I'm looking at. So I want to remember two pieces, right? First, this always has to match with whatever the subject is. And then again, the ending still needs to match the subject, right? And then if it's a stem changer or whatever, that still needs to factor in, okay? So how would I do this? So, yo levanto temprano cuando voy a la universidad. We already have a verb. We have levantar. So what are we just missing? We're missing the me, right? Yo me levanto. Because we already had the verb here. Okay? Here, we have por las mañanas, Carmen. We have the se right here. So we already have that. So what do we need? We need to take off these ARs and conjugate the verb, right? So, Carmen se ducha y se lava. ¿No? What do we need here? What are we missing here? Oh, we have cepilla, which is the verb, and we have afeita. So what is the only thing we're missing? We're missing the pronoun that matches with Javier. So we need se. Oh, we have our verb already here, right? We have the verb here, arreglamos, and we have ponemos. So what are we missing here? We're missing our pronoun, which in this case is nos. Okay, and we know it's nos because we have nosotros, right? Okay, so here we have the pronoun. Here, we have it here. But we don't have it here, and here we have a verb. So it kind of switched around. So first we're going to take off the AR and conjugate this verb. So we have miráis, right? But then we're still missing a pronoun over here, so we need an os, right? And then finally, here we have a whole verb. And so what do we want to do? We want to take off the se and then take off the AR. The se, we're going to put back, right? Here, se. And then we want to put the root, maki. And then what is the appropriate ending? It's an, maquillan. And I'll move it a little bit so you can see it a little better. Maquillan. That one's a little bit more challenging, no? Okay. So this one is one where you're meant to read and then answer questions as true or false, okay? So let's read it together. This is her daily routine, right? Carmen es una chica como cualquiera. Ella se despierta a las 7 de la mañana y se levanta. Después, ella se ducha y se lava la cara. Carmen se cepilla el pelo y los dientes y se pone su ropa. Después de vestirse, Carmen se arregla su pelo y se maquilla. Carmen es una chica de moda, entonces a veces se cambia a otra ropa después de maquillarse. Cuando llega a la casa, ella ve un poco de televisión, hace sus estudios y se arregla para dormir. Se quita su maquillaje y se cepilla los dientes, se lava la cara y se pone sus pijamas. Después, ella se acuesta y se duerme. So let's see which answers are true or false. Carmen siempre se levanta temprano como a las 7. So what time does she wake up? It says she wakes up around 7. Look here. Ella se despierta a las 7. Okay, so that one would be cierto. Oh. Carmen se baña, no se ducha. So it's asking, does Carmen bathe or does she shower? Right? But it says right here, ella se ducha. So we know that one has to be falso. Carmen se lava la cara. Oh, yep. Se lava la cara. So that one is cierto. Carmen no se cepilla los dientes. Oh, she doesn't do it. Remember, no means she does not do it. But here it says that she does do it. So we know that one has to be falso. Carmen se pone la ropa después de ducharse, ¿no? So yeah, so she, fixes her hair, she puts on her clothes, sometimes she puts on other clothes. So yeah, she's putting on her clothes. Cuando tiene su ropa, Carmen no se arregla el pelo ni se maquilla. So she's not putting on her clothes or she's not fixing her hair. She's not. But this says that she does fix her hair and she does put on makeup. So that has to be false. Okay, let's go down. Cuando llega a la casa por la noche, Carmen ve televisión. So this says, when she gets home, what does she do? She's watching TV. So that one is cierto. Okay. Then it says, Carmen se acuesta sin quitarse su maquillaje. Oh, no, here it's saying she does take off her makeup. So that one has to be falso. And then here, Carmen se pone sus pijamas antes de dormir. Yeah, so she's putting on her pajamas. So that one is cierto. Okay. And I think we have one more. Let's see. Finally, al final Carmen se duerme. Okay. And then, yeah. So she duerme. So that one also is cierto. Okay. Okay. So now this one is asking you to use comparatives, comparisons, and superlatives. Okay. So this is just making a guess, right? You're just saying something that, either as you compare these two people, it's just an opinion. So I'm going to write samples, but these are not the only ones that you could write. So I'm going to write my model here so that I can remember how to do these. How do I do these? I'm going to use a thing A plus, I need the English language one again. Más, menos, plus, the, noun, adjective, adverb, whatever, plus, thing B. And generally also there is a verb in here. So I'm going to add that too. Okay, so I just want to remember what my kind of formula is, right? So, okay, so let's start. So what am I going to say? I'm going to say either Maybe one of them is more talented than the other. Maybe one is more handsome than the other. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so let's say, I don't know. I mean, it's preference. I'm not advocating for one or the other. I'm just going to pick whoever is first. I'm going to say one of them is more handsome than the other, and whoever came first is, who wins. All right. So again, these are just samples. You could do anything you want. So I could say, right, Brad Pitt. I'm going to move this down a little bit. Okay. Es más guapo que Johnny Depp. Okay, so again, just whoever came first is who won. But so here again, I followed my formula. Person A or thing A, right? Brad Pitt in this instance. Verb, which is es, más, then what they are, right? Whatever I picked guapo. Okay. And then que, and then the thing, right? Okay. So Dakota Fanning is younger than Betty White, or we could say she's less old than Betty White. I like that. Let's do that. So let's say Dakota Fanning es menos vieja que Betty White. So again, right, thing A, in this instance, Dakota Fanning, verb, menos, and then whatever they're less, in this instance, old, right, que, and then Betty White, no? Okay, so now we have Adam Sandler and Hugo Chavez. I think Hugo Chavez is a political figure. And Adam Sandler is an actor. Let's say that Hugo Chavez is less funny. I don't know, because Adam Sandler is a comedian. So I'm assuming that anyone is less funny than Adam Sandler. I don't know. That's probably a preference too. Okay, so let's say Hugo Chavez. We could do it a lot of different ways, but let's do this one. Es menos cómico que Adam Sandler. So he's less funny than Adam Sandler because in this instance, Adam Sandler is the comedian of the two. I think if Hugo Chavez is a comedian, I apologize if Hugo Chavez is a comedian. I don't know off the top of my head. I think he's like a former leader in Venezuela, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm old. Okay. If I'm saying things wrong, I'm old and my brain gets tired and I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so we have Penelope Cruz and mi mejor amiga. I don't know. Let's say Penelope Cruz is more Spanish than my best friend, right? Because she is from Spain. So, okay, so we're gonna say Penelope. I'm gonna put this back into Spanish because it was easier. Penelope Cruz es más española que mi mejor amiga. I don't know. Again, I'm just making these up. I don't know. It's just whatever it is that comes to mind. I'm just trying to, oh, there's a little typo there. I'm very sorry. Let's see if I can. Okay. It took the whole thing away. Okay. 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 So Stephen Hawking, no mis compañeros de clase. So Stephen Hawking is a really well-known academic. So I'm going to say maybe he's more academic. I don't know. Or maybe he's more scientific. I don't know. Let's do that. Stephen Hawking es más científico que mis compañeros de clase. ¿Sí? So I've just followed again these little formulas, right, to create examples, but they're not the only examples that you could have done. You could have done others. Okay. So now we're given 3 people and we're meant to compare them to each other, right? So we have Sofía, we have Marcos, and then we have Tomás. Okay. So let's look at how they would be different from each other. So here's a couple of things. So Sofía is 25. Marcos is 20 and Tomás is 18. Okay, so we have some ages to compare. We also have some grades, right? So Sofía got an A, Marcos got an A+, and Tomás got a C. We also have their hair, right, to compare. So she has long black hair. He has, I'm assuming, blonde. It's white because that's the color of the page. I don't know what it's supposed to be. Like, because the paper is I don't know, we could say it's brown. I don't know, we can make it up, right? We'll invent it in our mind. We can say he's a redhead. I don't know, because there's no color there. There's actually no, I mean, this one is easy because it's black in color, but this one I'm just assuming that they're gonna let us use our imaginations to place the color where there isn't any. But anyway, and then the other one, right? So we have some things we can compare. One has a larger nose than some of the other ones, right? So, we got some things, right, that we can compare. We also have, okay, so this one is also comparing the amount of CDs. So look here, we have Sofía, she's got 1, 2, 3 CDs. He's got 3 CDs. And then this guy's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 CDs, right? Excellent. All right. Great. So the first thing they want us to compare is the hair, which is interesting because there isn't any. You know what? We're going to color it in. What else is this annotation function for except to color in hair? Let's make his hair brown. And that way we have something to go off of. There we go. Now he's got brown hair instead of it being no color at all. Perfect. Oh, let's do this. I'm not very good at this. Okay, and then what about we make this guy have we can give him red hair. How's that? Ooh, red. He can be a pelirrojo. Okay, perfect. Looks amazing. I love it. All right. So now we're gonna say, we're gonna compare the hair, right? So even if this guy has brown hair and this other guy has red hair, Sofía, her hair is black, so it's going to be darker than the other hair. So that is a great way to start our comparison. So again, we're going to we will put, because Sofía has black hair, so Sofía, no, tiene más que So she has darker colored hair. Oscuro is just the word that means like darker colored or darker tinted, right? So Sofía tiene el pelo más oscuro que Marcos y Tomás. So her hair is darker in color than Marcos and Tomás. Who's the tallest? I think Marcos is the tallest, right? He's taller than Tomás. So maybe we'll compare Marcos and Tomás to each other and their height. And we can say one is, or we could say one is shorter, right? That's another thing we could say. Or we could say one is less tall. That'd be like saying someone is shorter. So let's say that. So let's say Tomás es menos alto que Marcos. He's less tall than Marcos. No? In years, so Sofía is older than Marcos. So let's say that, right? So let's say Sofía es let's say it this way. Tiene más años que she has more years than Marcos and Tomás. Yeah? Because remember, we tener años. In Spanish, we don't are years, we have years, right? So who has the most compact discs? It's definitely Tomás. So we can say that. So we can say, Tomás tiene más discos compactos que Sofía y Marcos. So he has the most discs, right? And estudiar, who studied the most? Well, Marcos got the best grade, so we're going to assume that he studied the most. So, or we could say Sofía and Tomás studied less than Marcos. Maybe we could say that, right? So that's another comparison. So we could say Sofía y Tomás estudian menos que Marcos. They study less than Marcos. Remember, when the point is to compare the verb, which is studying, then the más que or menos que becomes one, or like they pair together rather than having something in between. Whew. Okay, más. So here we're comparing things that we like with either gusta or gustan, no? So we could say, oh, I like this more than that, or just as we're saying just as much, right? Or more, right? So this is saying just as many. So let's use that one, right? Let's use that as a comparison. So you're gonna put that here, right? We use this as an opportunity to do tanto como. Me gusta el pollo asado tanto como el pavo con verduras. So these are all going to look kind of similar, right? So me gusta el vino tinto tanto como la cerveza. Oh, you know what? That is my bad. Hold on, let's start that over. I didn't even notice. You should read things before you do them. Because I didn't even notice there's a little minus and a plus symbol telling me what to do. My eyes are old and they don't always see. I think I need reading glasses. All right. So there's something there to tell us. Okay, so, all right. So we're supposed to say that we like pollo asado less than we like pavo. Okay, so me gusta el pollo asado menos que el pavo con verduras. So here, again, the thing that we are actually comparing, even though we're comparing two things, is the action of liking them. So menos que becomes one phrase, or más que becomes one phrase, right? Because we're comparing actions rather than nouns or adjectives or, adverbs, okay? So, me gusta más, el vino tinto más que la cerveza. Okay, so this is another way that comparisons and superlatives can look, right? I like this more than I like that, right? And it would all be one word. So, okay, here again, me gusta el plan casero más que el helado. Because all of these we're comparing actions to each other, right? And the action is the act of liking, right? The act of liking something more than something else, right? Here there's an equal sign, so we're saying we like two things the same. Me gustan los Camarones is gustan because camarones is plural, right? Tanto como los calamares. Opa. Okay. And here we're saying menos, so me gustan las chuletas. Again, chuletas is plural. Oh, I spelled that wrong. I kind of see it. Okay, there we go. All right. So again, when we're comparing actions, remember it's formulated slightly differently, right? The más que or the menos que or the tanto como becomes all kind of one singular phrase. Okay. And again, in this instance, it would be because we're comparing an action of liking something to something else. Okay. Finally, right, so we just have 2 more pages. I know it's been so long. This has been the longest review on the planet. I really hope that it's helping. Okay. So we have 3 instances, right? And it's asking us who is the richest, right? So Cara is a student, Juan is a mesero, and Lola is a doctor. So who's the richest? Probably Lola. So let's write that down. So we would just say, Lola es la más rica. She's the richest. So, okay, so David is 6 feet 5 inches, Victor is 5 feet 3 inches, and Pablo is 5 feet 10 inches. Who is the shortest? Victor, right? So, Víctor es el más bajo. He's the shortest. Okay. El helado contiene grasa y 175 calorías. El flan contiene mucho colesterol y 450 calorías. Las frutas no contienen grasa y contienen pocas calorías. ¿Qué postre es el menos saludable? So, of the desserts listed, which is the least healthy? Well, ice cream is 175 calories, flan is 450 calories, and the fruit has very few calories, so I think the flan wins. So, el flan es el menos saludable, the least healthy. ¿No? Paco tiene 19 años, Juan y su hermano gemelo tienen 15 años, Wilfredo tiene 21 años. ¿Quién es el menor? So who's the youngest? One of them's 19, one of them's 15, and one of them's 21. So Juan and his hermano gemelo win out. So Juan y su hermano gemelo son los menores. They are the youngest. You guys are only 15. So Linda da conciertos de piano en Carnegie Hall. Guillermo acaba de empezar a estudiar el piano. Clara practica el piano 3 días a la semana. ¿Quién es el peor pianista? So who's the worst pianist? Well, Linda's playing at Carnegie Hall, so it's definitely not her. Guillermo just started, and Clara's practicing 3 times a week, so I'm gonna guess it's Guillermo. So Guillermo, poor Guillermo, being called out on blast. All right. Guillermo es el peor pianista. Okay. All right, so now let's move on to these preterites. Okay, that's the last thing that it's asking us to do. So what it's wanting us to do is it's wanting to take these present tense verbs and put them into preterites. So what would I do if this was me, right? The first thing that I would want to do is I would want to know the infinitives. Because remember, not all stem changers are going to be in the preterite. I mean, it's a lot of that is going to move, right? So this is what I would do, right? I would first start by finding all the verbs, they're all in italics anyway. And then I would want to know what the infinitives are to these verbs. Okay. So let's start with that. So I have yo almuerzo. So almuerzo is going to be almorzar. un sándwich con papas fritas de la casa de mi amiga Rosa María. Después yo juego, so we have jugar. Póker con ella en la casa. Luego toco, so we have tocar. Rosa y yo lo pasamos, we have pasar. Muy bien, toda la noche. Entonces yo vuelvo, that's volver. And then miro, so we have mirar. Leo, which is leer. And acuesto, which is acostar. Por la mañana yo me levanto, levantar. Me baño, which is bañar. Desayuno, desayunar. Luego salgo, which is salir. And tomo, which is tomar. Luego llego, which is llegar. Llamo, which is llamar. Uy. And contestar. And we have volver again, and then sentar. O sentir, me siento, no. Me siento en el sofá, es sentarse. Yeah, and then comenzar. Okay. So let's start there, right? This is the first thing that I would want to do. Why would I want to do this first before I do anything else? Well, the answer is very simple. I cannot know how to conjugate a verb unless I know if it ends in an AR, an ER, or an IR, right? Now, if I put my little verb boxes over here, right, with my preterite endings, which would be my next step, I'm going to know better what to do with those endings. Because if I just look at this doesn't tell me any information about what kind of ending I need in the preterite. But this tells me all the information I need, because look, I've got an AR here. So 100% I know what form this is supposed to take, right? So let's start with the ARs first, okay? So let's do ARs in the preterite first. And what is that going to be? It's going to be, remember, accent marks always, haste, o, and then we're going to have amos, hastáis, oops, and then we're going to have aron. Okay, so then let's do ER and IR here. All right, ER and IR. What are we going to have here? We're going to have E, iste, io, don't forget our accents. And then we're going to have imos. And eran. Okay. Now I have lots more pieces, right? If I don't have any of this, I'm just going to be randomly guessing in the dark. So the first thing that I want is to start to think, okay, how would I know how to conjugate this in the past tense? Well, if I just look at it, I think, oh my gosh, I'm so lost. I don't know. How do I conjugate that in the past tense? But if I think, oh, well, it's not almuerzo, it's almorzar. How do I conjugate almorzar in the past tense? Well, that's easy, right? How do I do that? I take off the AR, and then I add on the appropriate ending, right? That is how I do it. So if it's in the infinitive, it's much easier to think of it that way rather than to look at it like this, how it is on this page, and I think, oh, well, how are these supposed to look? So let's go through them and we'll do them together. So, okay, this says yo, and then we're talking about last time, right? So we were gonna say this is a little bit of a tricky one because it's got a bit of a spelling error in it. Yo almorcé con un sándwich de jamón. I'm not gonna type the whole thing because that's a lot. Con papas fritas en la casa de mi amiga Rosa María. Después, what's the next one gonna look like? Yo, right? What is it gonna be? Yo. So if we have jugar, we're gonna also, these ones are kind of interesting because they have a spelling change. Jugué. No, we're gonna learn this in a little bit, but póker con ella en mi casa. Luego, yo toqué. These have a little spelling interesting. Okay, and then it says Rosa y yo lo pasamos bien. This is kind of interesting because Rosa y yo lo is going to be the exact same formation. Lo pasamos bien, ¿no? Entonces, yo, okay, well, we have volver. So that's going to end in an ER. So we have yo, so we're going to have yo volví in the past tense, right? And then we have miro, which is an AR. So we're back to mire. Yo mire. No? And then we have leo, right? Which is leer. So that's an ER. So again, we need our ER ending, right? So yo leí. No? And finally, now we have acostar, which ends in an AR. So we're going to have the last one here, right? Which is me acosté. No? Okay, so let's do the next paragraph. Por la mañana, yo me, so we have levantar, that's an AR, right? So, okay, we're going to do it again. Yo me levanté. We're going to put it in the past, right? Me baño, so we have me bañé, right? Because we're going to go back to bañar, right? And then here we're going to go back to desayunar. So take the AR off, put on the preterite ending, desayuné, ¿no? Luego, salgo, well, we have salir here, that's an IR verb. So salí, so we're going to have salí, ¿no? Del apartamento. And then we have tomar, it's an AR verb. So we're going to have tomé, ¿no? Un taxi a la casa de Rosa María. Llego, so we have llegar, that's a yo. So it's going to be llegué. This one has a bit of a spelling weirdness in it. I apologize. Allí en 20 minutos. Y llamo, we have llamar, so it's going to be llamé. ¿No? Dos veces a la puerta. Ella no me contesta. So contestar is an AR, so, and that's ella. So ella no me contestó. ¿No? Por la tarde vuelvo. Okay, we have volver again, so that's an ER. So volví. ¿No? Okay, here. Y me siento, sentarse is an AR verb. So me senté, ¿no? En el sofá, 10 minutos temprano, más tarde yo comencé. This one also has a bit of a weird spelling thing in it. But, okay. A escuchar música. Okay. So this is just some preterite conjugation. Let's do them all. And again, right, what would I do? So there are a couple of things that I would do in order to do these right. The first is I would put all of the verb boxes for the preterite off to the side again, right? And then after I did that, right, I would go through and I would scratch out the AR and the ER. This review video has gone on for such a long time, and I apologize. Anybody who has stuck it out this long is a trooper. Okay. But so this is what I would do, right? So the verb boxes that I had before on the side, that's what I would put there. Then I would go through, and again, I would just eliminate these things here, right? So I would eliminate this. Boop. Boop, right? I want to know what is the root of all of these verbs, right? That's how I'm going to know how to conjugate them. So I want to take off the AR or the ER or the IR or whatever, right? But not so much so that I can't see it, but I just want to be able to know where the root is going to start with each of these verbs. So that's where I would start, right? I would just start by doing that. And so there we go. All right. So this is where I would start, right? Then after I have prepped in that way, I would write my verb boxes again over here, right? So let's write them. Okay. And that way I have more information, right? I have information to go off of. I'm not just going off of anything, right? I'm going off of real pieces of information. Okay, and then here also, right? I want to go off of real info. I don't want to just make inferences. I don't want to be making guesses. I want to know, what am I supposed to put here, right? I'm sorry, my verb box didn't work out very well in this one. Okay. So, all right. So now this gives me a lot of information to go off of. So I have Roberto, I have trabajar, right? What is this? What is the root? Trabaj. And then what is the right ending for Roberto? Trabajó. No? And then I have regresar. The Roberto is still the subject. So what is the root? Regres. And again, regresó. No? Then I have the root, converse. What is the right form for conversar is an AR, so it's going to be O again, because it's él, ¿no? Luego, it's still L, so we're going to do cen, and then O, ¿no? Because it's cenar, and so ceno. La empleada Graciela, so now Graciela is the subject, right? But she's still él or ella, right? So we're still doing O, probably. So prepar is the root, O. No, unas arepas. Memo, okay, so what's the root? Com. But now we have an ER verb, not an AR verb. So what is going to be the ending? Comió, no? Muchas arepas. But now we have an AR verb again, so it's going to be termin and then O, no? Después, Graciela, okay, so cocin is the root. And what is the right form? O, no? Porque Memo continuó, no? So here's the root, beb, and the verb is, or the subject is él, so it's an ER verb though, so we have to do bebió, no? Una Coca-Cola. And then we have tomar, so the root is tom, and it's sus padres, that's the subject. So what is it going to be? It's going to be Aaron, no? Su papá le, and then pregunt is the root, so it's su papá, so it's preguntó, right? Ni, this one has a almorzó, no? Oh, I missed one. I missed a line. I'm so sorry, guys. So comen is the root. So what is the appropriate ending? Is comentó, no? Remember, all of these are proper names, right? Roberto, Graciela, Memo, these are all proper names. So anything that's a proper name is third person, right? Anything that's a proper name, where is it going to fall into? It's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be this one or this one, based on whether it is singular or plural, right? Anything that's a proper name. So that's where we're kind of going with this. Okay, so I missed a line, which was here. Yo no desayuné. Oops. Ni almorcé hoy. So we're still in yo, so jugué. This one has a weird spelling thing here. We'll talk about it a little bit later. And this one too, we'll talk about this later. So for now, don't worry about it. Y después, This one also has a weird spelling thing. Llegué. Su mamá. Okay, so what is the root? Explique. And then su mamá, again, third person, right? So explicó. Right? Memo practicó, ¿no? Fútbol. Y también, this one is also a weird spelling one. Leyó, ¿no? I think it has an accent mark here, so I'll just remember. Okay. All right. I know, we're almost done. I can't believe it. Okay. So here again, you know, I would want to put my verb boxes, but I know I've had you guys so long, and this review has literally been I think it's like been 2 hours. So I don't want to deliberate too long, but let's just figure out which are the verbs, right? So we have yo conocer, so we would have yo conocí. Preterite, right? El novio de mi amiga Marta, nosotros lo invitamos en el restaurante. Él llegó tarde, él leyó el menú, pero él no deseó tomar nada. Él sugirió, this one is a kind of a weird one, sugirió salir del restaurante sin comer. Marta y yo queríamos conversar con no, queríamos quedarnos, pero decidimos ir con él. Yo no conseguí conversar con Roberto. Yo hablé mucho con él, pero él no me contestó. Por fin Roberto se despidió de nosotros. Marta me pidió consejos. ¿Qué debe de hacer? Yo me sentí, no, muy mal, pero le sugerí romper con él, ¿no? Again, right, all we're doing with these, right, is we have to take off the AR or the ER, and now we're putting on a new ending. So the most important part of this is we need to know the right ending boxes, right? We need to know the right verb boxes. Okay, and finally, last one, here we go. Okay, so this is things that happening in the present. So we're saying normally I do this, but the other day or yesterday I did this, right? So típicamente mis amigos traen cerveza aquí para la fiesta, pero ayer no trajeron. No, they didn't bring any. O no trajeron. Sorry. No trajeron cerveza. ¿No? Típicamente yo estoy contento todo el día, pero ayer no estuve contento. Típicamente tú quieres estudiar en la biblioteca, pero ayer no quisiste estudiar. Típicamente mis padres vienen a visitarme el fin de semana, pero no vinieron. Remember the irregular preterites we went over? That is what this is, right? Típicamente ustedes se ponen la ropa nueva, pero ayer no pusieron la ropa nueva. Típicamente mis compañeros de cuarto y yo tenemos mucha comida en casa, pero ayer no tuvimos nada. Típicamente Juan me dice hola al llegar a casa o a clase, perdón, pero ayer no me dijo nada. Típicamente yo puedo ir al cine con mis amigos por la noche, pero ayer no pude, ¿no? Típicamente la profesora nos da mucha tarea, pero ayer no nos dio tarea. Típicamente los estudiantes van de compras cuando tienen dinero, pero ayer no fueron. So what this was asking you to do was to recognize which verb it was in the present. So in this context, traen, estoy, quieren, vienen, ponen, tenemos, dice, puedo, dar, van, and then translate that into the irregular form in the preterite. So how would I have done these if I was picking it apart a little bit more, first I would have written in the new verb box. Remember that these irregular preterites have their own little ending chart. And then I would have written down all of the roots of these verbs like this, right? I would have written down estar means estu, no? And then poner means, right? Poder means food, right? I would have written down all of that, right? As a starting point. And then I would have conjugated each one, right? In and of itself. So these are the kind of notes that I would take as just as reference, you know, for whenever you're going to be doing the exam. So that's something to kind of think about. There are other review sheets that you could do. But we're just gonna go, I was gonna do them all, but oh my gosh, that took so long. I'm so sorry. But I hope that it helped. There are answers and there's like a little, this is like a little practice exam. It's not very long. Yeah, and this one is a little bit more simple. So, you know, hopefully that should kind of help. This is an exam that people, you know, used to do in this class. And so, you know, it'll give you a good idea of what I'm thinking about. All right. So I hope that you found that helpful. I will upload this video as a help for you right now. If y'all guys need anything, of course, please don't hesitate to let me know. I am here to help you 100%, right? If there's any moment of panic or anybody feels worried or upset or nervous, I am the person to contact. So, you know, if you're going to have, you know, I don't know, some kind of worry work party, or if you're going to have a concern party or an anxious party or a moment of sheer panic party, you know, you got to invite me. All right. So we can sheer panic together. Or I can help you. Right. So, or we can worry together, or we can, you know, whatever. I don't know. That analogy doesn't translate well. Okay. Anyway. But you know, whatever it is that's going on, right? Please get in touch with me if you have anything that happens. I really would tell you though, first, a couple of things. The first is study before you take the test. And second is, please do not try to take the test Sunday night at 11 o'clock. You won't get very far. So those are my two big suggestions. Try not to leave it to the last minute. I know that that's hard sometimes, but try not to leave it to the last minute, and try to make sure that you just study a little bit ahead of time. Okay, guys. Ciao, chicos. Hasta la semana que viene.